Hi guys, I want to try to help people who might be wondering if they're repressing being trans or if they're not actually trans. This is a legitimate question to have in your mind, and you'll probably be asking it of yourself a lot, whether you end up identifying as trans or not. Just if this question is in your mind and you have some kind of unresolved gender question in your mind. So I'm going to be speaking from my own personal experience mostly, because I don't want to speak for anyone else, even if I know people and know some of their experience. I'm not going to draw from that too much. So yeah, from my experience, I'm 33 years old, and that's the age I came out. You could say I came out a few years earlier as non-binary, but I didn't change pronouns. I didn't deal with the hassle of asking people in real life to recognize my gender. It wasn't in my mind. I didn't feel like it was worth the hassle of bringing up and explaining to people, and I'm sure a lot of trans people feel that way. It's just, you go about your everyday life, you try to fix your presentation, you correct the people you care about, and don't bother with the ones you don't. So I decided to live as non-binary after many years of having thoughts and feelings that I was more feminine than masculine. So you probably arrive at the question of whether you are trans, because you have these ideas in your mind, you have feelings, thoughts around gender, and you can't quite put them together in a way that confirms to you that you're trans. Some things you or at least I always felt was all my feminine gestures and way of speaking and even behavior, interests. I'm a very I don't know, usually subdued, calm. I don't know if I can call myself shy. I guess it's not so much shyness as hesitation because of my Asperger's. I don't like causing social awkwardness with it. It's just my brain calculates if it's worth the emotional distress and effort of said behavior or expression, and a lot of the times it just isn't, because my brain makes such a big deal out of things. So yeah, I had these feminine gestures, I had feminine expressions, much more than I'm even using right now, because I have a lot of masculine programming that just isn't me, but you have to cope with life somehow, and I grew up this way for over 30 years. Can't change everything in a second, and even if I tried, it would be kind of artificial, so that's not really me. So yeah, you probably, if you're into trans, I don't know about rapid onset dysphoria. I'm not gonna attempt to address that. If you're trans, you probably have these behaviors and expressions and emotions and thoughts as far back as your childhood. You might not have known what they were. Religious programming, being trans, the idea of being trans is just entirely disallowed. You couldn't even think along those lines. Thought crimes. I was a Jehovah's Witness, or grew up as one. I was never actually baptized. And things like your social group might definitely cause you to repress, and you might not put together in your mind and realize what these things are, because you don't even know what being trans is. You don't know that there's this possibility that you could be a girl trapped in a boy's body, or vice versa. I use that expression even if it's not a good expression in my mind. It's just an expression that is easy to use, and people kind of know what you're talking about. So you have these things in your childhood. You're probably not, probably don't count things that are sexual. Like if you, in your childhood, when you were young teen or preteen, if you had feelings about wanting a different body in a sexual sense, to experience sex differently, I wouldn't count that, because even if that might be something that expresses you being trans, like, sure, it's an aspect of being trans as well. You want to experience sex as the gender you are, usually. Just set that aside and consider it separate to everything non-sexual, because being trans is not sexual. It's just, it expresses itself sexually, but it's not sexual. So if you have these thoughts regarding sex, that is not a trans thing inherently. That's just sexual expression or experimentation in your mind, just wanting to imagine things, imagine being what you are interested in. Like, that's and that's fine, whether you're cis or trans. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, or that it in any way invalidates you as trans. It's just, it's not indicative. So that's going to be, as it goes further in your life, depending on where you're at, that's going to be a set concept. Sexual things are off to one side, and non-sexual things are the significant part that you want to consider, because most of your life is not sex. At least I don't imagine many people spend more time with sex than they do other things in life. So most of being trans is how you want to live, what presentation you're comfortable with, how you're comfortable with people perceiving you and treating you in social situations. we're privately run groups. That matters. How you feel about yourself. If you have this concept of what gender is, and everyone's is going to look a little bit different, and you feel that a lot of these little factors that constitute the concept gender pull you more in one direction than whatever cis role you're put in. Those things are indicative. So they might be things like clothing, interests, even how you speak to people and how they respond to you in conversation. You might, for instance, have, if you're born male-bodied, you probably, well, in most countries, grew up with some kind of norm that you're supposed to be less emotional and speak less in emotional terms and have less interests based in abstract emotion and thought, more interest based in practical defined things like, well, sports, games, competitions of skill. It's all little things, and sure, you can be cis female and be interested in all of these typically masculine things, and that's fine. It really says nothing about your gender unless you think it does, unless you feel it does. Is it an expression of gender to you or not? Doesn't have to be. It's perfectly fine if you are a femme male and can be happy living that way. I would definitely suggest that you explore that before you explore whether you would be more comfortable being trans. I know that's a funny way of putting it, like comfortable being trans, as if being trans is a choice. It is. I don't believe it's not a choice in that sense. There is a choice of what you do with what you have. Everyone has a different situation. I chose for a few years to be non-binary, even if I felt that I was more female. And this was because of things like, I'll start listing the list of excuses that you will probably recognize if you are indeed repressing. Things like, if I transition, I don't think the results will be satisfying enough. I don't think I will become closer to the image of myself as a woman, in my case, just because of what I have to work with. I don't think it will help enough to be worth the effort, and it's a legitimate thing to feel. You don't just want to say, okay, this means I'm repressing, so I'm not going to transition. I should be transitioning. That's not a. It is legitimate to have things that affect your choice of presentation and your choice of label. And these things are labels. Gender is indeed a social construct. So you get to use labels as you choose. Okay. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this, or be offended by it, or offended is such a counterproductive word, so shouldn't be using it. I'll make another video about that. But yes, you do get to choose your label. You choose the one that you can live with. So you might be feminine enough, like you might identify just as trans femme as a trans woman, and still choose to identify as non-binary, but still choose to keep the label as cis. That does mean to some degree that you're repressing, but you still get the choice of your label. So yes, that is one aspect that is a clear signal that you're repressing, that you're concerned with your results. I'm concerned that I won't have enough hair to ever pass as female, and that I will have to wear a wig all the time in the future if I can't medically transition. And if you're all about the results, I mean, to some degree, you have to think that the shallow things are not actually why you identify. If they are, then that might be a signal that you want something that is not really being trans. Do keep that in mind. Being trans and wanting to present as the gender you identify with is different from wanting to be beautiful. This almost gets close to this little compartment of sexual things. If you're thinking about what you're more attractive as, like, sure, you can weigh that. You're allowed to. You can weigh that between if you want to transition or not. But yeah, whether you're more attractive as male or female or non-binary, that isn't what your identity is. It shouldn't be. That's skin deep. It will fade with time. Everyone grows old. So, do you want to grow old as male or female? Presenting in what way? What gestures? What clothing? What expression? What way of speaking do you want when you are 60, 70? Not while you're still pretty. Forget while you're still pretty. Whether you consider yourself enough if you're young. You might be repressing if there's this excuse that you won't be able to transition to be good enough, to be pretty enough, to be good enough a female or male or non-binary person. Because it isn't about how pretty you are. So if you're really trans, you might be using it as an excuse because it's really hard to be trans. You tell yourself, I'm more attractive as what I was born as than I would be if I transitioned, so I'm just gonna stay this way and I'll be prettier to other people, and maybe it'll help me in the sexual marketplace compared to if I did what I identified as. If your thoughts seem to resonate with this, you might indeed be trans and repressing. Kind of connected to that, another thing that might mean you're repressing is if you're thinking about resources and what transition options are available to you. If medically transitioning is viable to you, it might not be for me. I'm not on hormones yet, and I look quite male. I'm unaware. I know comments will be unkind probably, but you might have a medical condition, you might not know if you could go on hormones, you might be concerned with how long it's going to take if you're young and know it's going to take you a year to get through the transition process, or more than a year. You might say, can I deal with this? My life is hard enough. I get that feeling. That's a big reason I didn't tackle my gender in my early years, because I've had a fairly rough life. I'm disabled, I'm autistic. I've had other health issues. I had constant migraines in school. I was indoctrinated in a cult. You might be considering resources and time and every little hurdle to transitioning. Like, you might think, what does your family think? What will they think when you come out to them? What will your friends think? How many will you lose? What will society think? Will you look silly? If you're putting these things in front of you because you're having feelings that are essentially transness, and you're putting these in front of you so you don't have to deal with them, that is what repressing is. You're just coming up with the obstacles, the problems, and not realizing that they are obstacles and problems because you are indeed trans. It can really be that simple. I have a hard time believing that you are not trans if you have these obstacles running in your mind and they keep popping up when you have these feelings and thoughts. Because that's what being trans is. That's dysphoria. Dysphoria is another one of these terms that I feel is not very useful a lot of the time, but yes, that is dysphoria. You have non-conforming gender feelings. You kind of know what they are, or at least that something is wrong, but you put things that would be obstacles in the forefront of your mind when they pop up. If you recognize any of this, if you have these feelings, It's a good chance you're trans. If on the other hand the feelings you have are mainly social, you want social validation that you're not able to get, you want to feel different, special, and you think, oh, I kind of want a different body, maybe I am trans. That's not that's not where it should come from. Like, do not think of the things you'll get out of it. That's in this box here of sexual, superficial beauty and social validation in some circles, very few circles, but some places you're celebrated for coming out as trans, most places not. Don't expect to be celebrated as coming out as trans. It's not going to be enough, it's not going to be worth it if you are not truly trans. So this box here of the things, the shallow things, set that aside. They might come into play in your transition, but all these other things on the other side, these are the big things. Think about those. Think about who and what you are, and if you are putting things in front of your wish to transition. So I hope I have given someone perhaps some clarity in what these little boxes and categories mean, what might mean you are trans, what might be irrelevant and not really aspects of being trans, just aspects of gender and sex that are completely normal, and you can have them while you are cis, and be completely be completely fine and never have to truly tackle gender issues, because you might realize it's just this sexual thing and that's fine, or this is a beauty thing and it would be nice, but it's and I just want the superficial things, and they're not being trans. If from any of this you get the sense that you could be trans, get in touch with a psychologist, a gender clinic, get a referral, talk it out, figure it out, and think about it on your own. A psychologist or a therapist can only do so much for you. Don't rely on just their opinion. Figure yourself out. But get into the system, get talking. It's going to take time, be prepared for that. Count on a year plus. This is not going to be instant, and if you wish it to be instant, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons, because the right reasons are not instant fixes, and they're not going to feel instantly validating and good if you are trans. It's going to take time. Hormones or surgery or no. I hope this helps someone. If it was just an interesting lesson, you appreciated it, or if it helped you, please leave me a like or comment or subscribe. And that's it for me for now. Everyone take care of yourself. get the help you need, find someone to talk to, talk to a psych if you have one available to you. Well,